I made myself a note to not forget to record. Okay, and I am recording. Hillary, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Have you ever used Pear Deck before?
Nope, but I'm excited about it. I didn't realize that Google had this feature.
Yeah, I think it's relatively new. You can just add it. You can put it as like an add-on. So
Like download it for Chrome add-ons?
well, like so here's my Google Slides, and so I just went up here to add-ons, and then
Oh,
I typed in Pear Deck, and it came right up. And so I've been able to incorporate interactivity using Pear Deck while I'm in Google Slides. So it's pretty cool.
perfect.
Okay, so Deb, are you on Pear Deck as well? Can you see?
Just while we're waiting for things to get started, how are you feeling today? Is that what I should be seeing?
How are you feeling?
Oh, you just click one of the smiley faces and or you can click skip.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
that's like one of those optional.
Yeah, it's loading the presentation now. There we go. Yep, you're up.
You can see the introduction to the periodic table of the elements.
Yes.
Okay, so perfect. So the way this is going to work is I have some interactivity built into the presentation. So there will be a few questions I'll have you answer. Once we get down to the end of the presentation, I have a short quiz that we'll test out. And then I'll show you my resources, but then I also have a survey I'll ask that you fill out just to kind of give me some feedback on the overall effectiveness of this presentation. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. So introduction to the periodic table of the elements. So the objectives for this lesson are as follows. So students will be able to describe how the organization of the periodic table is based on atomic mass. And students will be able to identify parts and features of the periodic table. So we're really just going to kind of focus around these two objectives. We'll look at, different parts and features of the periodic table and atomic mass. So here's the first question. It's a pretty simple one. So how comfortable are you with the periodic table of the elements? You should see 3 options to choose from.
So it's not showing like continue.
Okay, yeah, I have to
Oh,
bring forward. So okay, so it's kind of a mix here. We're pretty comfortable or not so comfortable, and that's okay. This is just real introductory information today. Nothing crazy. So I'm going to go ahead and move on. Okay, so let's go ahead and start talking about the modern periodic table. So when you think about the periodic table, there are around 118 elements. Quite a few of those are naturally occurring, so going up to around element 92, those are going to be your naturally occurring elements. And then from there, a lot of the elements are synthesized in the lab. So when you look at the periodic table of elements, or when you think about that, that table, this is going to be kind of the image that you see, or that you think about. You have, the columns and the rows, and then you have this section down here at the bottom. With your periodic tables, depending on how elaborate they are, they could have a lot more information on them than what you can currently see. But generally, you will have the symbol of the element, and then you will have these numbers on the elemental squares as well. And we are going to kind of break those down and talk about what they mean, as well as looking at some of the sections of the periodic table itself. So before we really get into the different sections of the periodic table, I would like to take a trip back in time to 1869. So the gentleman that you see on your screen, that is Dmitri Mendeleev, and he is really, attributed to formulating the first periodic table, to organizing the elements. And when he did this, he really looked at the similarities of the elements. He looked at how they behaved. He looked at their masses as well. And when he organized his table, this is kind of the image that he came up with. So this here is really the first prototype of the periodic table of the elements. And as you can see, it's not as elaborate as the one that we had seen before, the modern periodic table. But if you look through this table, you can really look at the genius of Mendeleev. A lot of the elements that are listed here are in order to what the periodic table looks like now, which is quite amazing because he didn't have nearly as much technology as we do today. And that to me is a beautiful thing. Another thing that I would like for you to notice here is some of the spaces on the periodic table that Mendeleev came up with are blank. And that is quite amazing. So he was able to predict what future elements could look like based on characteristics of the elements around them. And we will use this type of information as we move forward in this presentation. So before I go any further, do I have any questions? Hillary, Deb, are we doing okay?
Yes.
Doing good.
Perfect. I'm not going too fast, right?
We'll find out.
No.
I tend to get excited sometimes, and so if I'm moving too fast, just let me know. Okay. So let's go back to the modern periodic table of elements. So when you think about the periodic table, we have rows and we have columns. The rows on the periodic table, we refer to those as periods, and we have 7 periods. When we talk about the columns, we will call those either groups or families. So if I say a group or I say family, just remember that those are interchangeable. They're straight up synonyms here. And so those are going to refer to the columns. Now, one thing I would like to note here is that some of the groups have special names, and we will talk about those as we move forward. So moving on, we do have another question here. So what do we call the rows on the periodic table? Perfect. Have some answers. Okay, awesome. You both are you're doing great. We call the rows on the periodic table periods. This question worked out awesome because I had 3 choices I could choose from. Okay. So moving on. Okay, so if you look at your screen, you can see just a very generic version of the periodic table of elements. You can see here that I have 3 main sections. The groups or families, those are not indicated with numbers, but there are 18 of them. And we do have the periods listed along the left-hand side for the rows. In the blue section here, we do have what we call our main group elements. In the sunken down section, so this yellow section, those are going to be our transition elements. And here at the bottom, we have our lanthanide and our actinide series. Now, one thing I would like to point out here is that the lanthanide and actinide series, there is this gray section right above it. That is because this orange section actually fits right in here. So as you can see, up here next to the blue to the left, we have the number 6, and then down here next to the orange on the left, we have the number 6 as well. That's because that row fits right here between the blue and the yellow. And the same with period 7. Does anybody know why? Why we would put these 2 rows at the bottom rather than within the table?
They have different properties.
They do have different properties. Any other reason?
Because it'd make the table too wide to see.
Yeah. So that's perfect. Yes. So you both were right. The table would be much too large. So if we actually put the rows, the periods up there with the rest of them, it would look like this. And it's not so easy to fit that on one sheet of paper. So to prevent that, we do like to put them down at the bottom. And Hillary, you were completely right. The lanthanides and the actinides, those elements do have very different properties. And so it's also nice to kind of have them below. And even some of them here in that 7th period are lab synthesized. So that's another thing to note. Okay, so moving on here.
Is Hillary a physics teacher too, or a science teacher?
Yeah.
I just took chemistry 1 and 2 and organic 1 and 2 and biochem.
Okay,
Oh,
so
yeah,
you
well, like,
did
I've
this.
never had half of those. Okay.
I was originally pre-med.
Oh, okay. I'm like, wow, I had no idea. Okay.
Yeah, okay, well, that's awesome. Just moving on. So before I did mention that some of the groups or families, they do have special names. And so if you look here, I do have the names of the periodic table, well, of the groups or families that are special indicated here. So starting on the left-hand side in group 1A, you can see here that we have our alkali metals. Moving from left to right, we have group 2A, which those are going to be our alkaline earth metals. Down in the bottom, we have the kind of brownish color. Those are going to be your transition elements. And then also at the bottom, we have our lanthanide and our actinide series. And those don't really have a special name per se. So we're going to go ahead and move all the way over to the right to group 7A. You can see those are going to be your halogens. And then all the way to the right, we have group 8A, and those are going to be your noble gases. Now, another thing that I want to point out when you look at this chart here, you'll notice that some of the groups have an A next to them and some of them have a B next to them. So an easy thing that I like to tell my students is that if it has an A next to them, think of those as your main group. And then if with your Bs, those are going to be either the transition elements or the lanthanide or actinide series down at the bottom. So that's just an easy way to think about it. Before I move on, do we have any questions?
No.
Okay, so let's go ahead and move on here. And here I have just a little bit of practice. So for this practice slide, I would like for you to drag the dots to the correct family on the periodic table. So the red dot will be on the halogens, the orange dot will be on the alkali earth metals, the blue dot on the noble gases, and the green dot on the alkali metals.
Oh, so when I pick up the red dot, it turns green. That's confusing.
Oh, that is confusing. Place it somewhere and see what happens.
Okay, placed it where I thought it goes.
Glitch in the system. That's odd.
Oh, and when I pick up the yellow dot, it turns blue. Okay.
It's doing that to me too.
Oh,
But I just like clicked and dragged in one motion to where I knew it was going, and
changing the colors. Huh. That is odd. I will have to make note of that so I can check it out. That's never happened to me before. So okay. We're technology and it doesn't always work according to plan, but that's
oh, are we supposed to place it on each one? I just thought we were dragging one dot to like the column.
one dot per family.
Okay.
Okay, I think I got it to work.
Okay.
Can you see our work as an instructor? Can you see where we put our dots?
I can, yeah. So I can actually lock the screen, and that will prevent you from adding any more dots. So since there was some technical difficulty, I will just kind of go over this together. So the number one said place the red dot on the halogens. Can you tell me where exactly the halogens are?
The next to last.
Yep.
Next to last. So yes, so that's going to be group 7A. Very good. What about the alkali earth metals?
The second.
2A.
2A. Very, very good. The noble gases?
8A.
8A. Very good. And then last but certainly not least, the alkali metals.
1A.
Very good. So I think you have that down, and we'll go ahead and move on. And I would like to apologize for the technical difficulty there. Not sure what was
not your fault.
Yeah, it worked.
Things happen. You roll with the punches, right? Okay, so now let's move on and talk about a few more features of the periodic table. So sometimes we'll have periodic tables that tell you the state of the elements at room temperature. So one thing I would like to point out here is that most of the elements on the periodic table are solid at room temperature. So those are going to be those elements that are kind of indicated in that brownish color on your screen. We do have some gases at room temperature. So most of your gases are going to be over here on that right-hand side. Those are going to consist of, you know, the noble gases. A couple of your halogens are gases, and then there are a couple more on the right-hand side. Another thing I want to point out is hydrogen, which is going to be the number 1. It's going to be the element on the upper left-hand side. That is the only gas that is going to be on the left-hand side of the periodic table. Now, we do have some liquids that are at room temperature, not very many, and so you can see those indicated on the periodic table. Those are going to be your green boxes there, and they kind of have the little water drop symbols, so that's going to indicate the liquids. So looking at this, this slide, you can see that most of those elements are indeed solid. Now, I would like to direct your attention down here to the lower right-hand side. You can see that some of the properties of certain elements are unknown. So those are going to be elements that are fairly new. They may not last very long. They may have, you know, an unstable nuclei. So you know, we don't have a ton of information on those, but the information that we do have, they do kind of fall in certain groups. But as it says here, that some of their properties are unknown. So let's go ahead and move on. We do have another question here. So it states, most of the elements on the periodic table are what state? Are they going to be liquid, gas, or solid? And both of you said solid, so you're on it. Good job. Good job, ladies. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on here. Okay, so for this slide, what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of break down what an elemental square looks like. So all the slides leading up to this, we've talked about the periodic table, the sections of the periodic table, some of the states of matter that you see in that table. But let's look at the individual square now. So in this square here, you can see a lot of different information. So the whole number at the top, this is going to be the atomic number. Now the atomic number is super important because it tells you how many protons are in the nucleus of an atom. Another part of the elemental square is going to be this symbol. So here we're looking at phosphorus, and its symbol is P. This elemental square is pretty nice because it also gives you the actual name of the element. Sometimes when you look at a periodic table, you'll see a symbol and it doesn't really seem to match the element. For example, mercury, its elemental symbol is Hg. So it's not intuitive. If you didn't know that, or you weren't familiar with the periodic table, and you were looking for mercury and you only had the symbols, it might take a minute. So sometimes the symbols, like I said, are not intuitive. And then another thing that I want to point out on the elemental symbol itself is the average atomic mass, which is going to be the decimal number of the element, or the decimal number on the periodic table, excuse me. So the average atomic mass, what it is doing, it's taking into account all of the masses of the different isotopes of certain elements. And we're not going to go into that today, but like people, atoms can have different weights, and I mean, they're going to be very close to each other, but we do take an average, and so that's what that decimal number is going to be. So again, just to make sure I reiterate some things here. The whole number, that is the atomic number. The decimal number is the average atomic mass, and then obviously we have the chemical symbol and the name of the element here as well. Okay, so before I move on, do I have any questions?
So is there any correlation between the atomic number and the average atomic mass? Is there any correlation between those two, or are they two very separate numbers?
So they're going to be separate numbers. So the atomic number is going to tell you how many protons are in the nucleus.
Okay.
When you look at the average atomic mass, that's taking into account the protons and the neutrons.
Okay.
We know that atoms also have electrons, but their mass is so teeny tiny, it's not really accounted for in the average atomic mass. So depending on the element, you could have, varying numbers of neutrons in the nucleus. So that's what this number, the average atomic mass is looking at. It's looking at the mass with both the protons and the neutrons. Whereas the atomic number is just the number of protons in the nucleus. Okay, any other questions? Okay, so moving on here, we do have another one of those drag and drop questions. So this one just says, drag the dots to the appropriate feature on the elemental square. So the red dot will go to the average atomic mass, the orange dot on the atomic number, the yellow dot on the elemental symbol, and the green dot on the element name.
This one worked.
Yay.
Perfect. Oh, I love it when things work. And you ladies are awesome. Awesome. It's beautiful. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move on here. And this is the quiz time. So if you could please click the link, and that will take you to the quiz. And this is just going to be a quiz.
Do we go ahead and click here for the quiz?
Yeah, go ahead and click here for the quiz, and then hit start game when both of you are logged in. Okay. Does it work for you?
I have a purple screen now and some nice music and 3 things. It says select a theme.
It's not doing anything.
It didn't do it? Okay.
I've got a purple screen that says Spelt, Spirit, and Garbanzo George.
Okay. Well, it could be.
So I'm seeing the purple screen. It's just not.
It's not playing. Okay. That's odd. Well, I'm not for sure what happened there, but that's okay. I'll just ask you the questions if that's okay with you. And it'll
Sure.
be fine. We'll just kind of work through them together.
I clicked on something and I got start over or resume game. It says there's 3 questions.
Yeah, see, there's not very many questions to this quiz, but that's okay. We're just gonna go over them together. It does kind of take some of the fun out of it, and I do apologize.
Oh, that's okay.
Okay.
I really want this to work. I'm trying something different here.
I tried I see a whole bunch of I see all the players,
Yeah.
but I'm not for sure why it's not going straight to the game. Which
Do you have to start it?
it should just start on its own.
Huh. About the music. That was
So-
kind of annoying. Resume game.
It's okay.
Darn, I really want this to work for you.
Well, I mean, we can test it for a minute. But I don't want you to have to log in if you don't have a code like a.
It's not letting me click on anything except select a theme.
Yeah, that's odd. Not for sure.
Huh.
Okay, so I can put the web address in here. You can try to click on that and see if it works. I just sent it in the group chat.
I'll go to chat. Hold on. Gotta navigate the screen.
I will admit I have done quizzes with my students, but I've never put them in a Pear Deck slide. So I wonder if that has anything to do with it.
Well, I clicked on the link and it's working. It looks like it's just waiting for everyone else.
Okay.
I clicked on the link and now I got 2 people in. There were 5 people
Hey,
in.
there it
There we
goes.
go.
Okay. So
Counting down. Got it.
Don't remember where bromine is. I'd have to look. Sounds like a gas, though.
Okay.
Oh, well, that was really cool.
It was cool.
Okay, I'm glad. Well, I'm glad you guys liked it. I like quizzes. I think it works really well with the students. I mean, they really enjoy it. I mean, it kind of makes it fun for them. And I did a lot of those this past semester during COVID. I really enjoyed it. Okay, so good job. I would like to show you my resources. So I just used the textbook that we use in school to get my.
Back on the main, where do you want us? I'm still in quiz mode. You want me to
Oh, you can go back to Pear Deck.
get out of that? Okay.
Yeah, you can go to Pear Deck. That's where my survey is as well.
Gotcha.
So as I said, this is the textbook that I use, Living by Chemistry. It had all of those photos that I was able to incorporate into the presentation. And then the last thing that I have for you is just a short survey. So any information, any feedback that I could get would be helpful. And there's the survey code. Thank you. Is there anything, did you have any questions or anything before I let you ladies go?
I think you did a great job. Thank you. I was getting a little nervous to sign up for a physics lesson or a chemistry lesson, but.
well, thank you so much. And I do apologize again for some of the technical problems there.
No, you did great. It was nice to see some of the tools that you used. That was very helpful.
Well, I thank you. And I like I said, I mean, I've used those tools, separately, but never like incorporated. And so it is a little buggy, but I'm glad that it worked out. And I'm happy to share links or anything with you if you want them.
I think thank you for having 2 learning objectives up front, because that alleviated some of my fear about how much I was going to have to know to get through this. That really helped. And it really helped that you sent out the table ahead of time, because I took notes all over it while you were talking. And I really liked your visuals, and it was fun. And I think you have a great style. Thank you. It was fun to listen to.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And best of luck with everything.
All right. Well, yeah, you'll hear from me this weekend since we're in the same group together.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Well, Deb, Hillary, thank you so much for joining the presentation and for filling out the survey. I appreciate it. You ladies have a good rest of your day.
Thank you. I'm doing the survey now. We'll talk later.
Bye, ladies.
Bye.
Bye-bye.